Hi, my name is Nathaniel. I'm currently year 3 in Ngee Ann Poly studying financial informatics, and here is my TFI exercise for.
Hi, so for this week, which is week 5, we were tasked to do 2 practicals, and so I'll be showing you 2 practicals today. And for the first practical, we were tasked to create a application which would take in the input and the input email as well as the student's ID, and then use it to put it through uh, a report application that will create an expense report and allow the user to uh, create new expenses into the expense report and create the chart. So first I will show you that. So first we have an input dialog that requests for the email. So it just simply asks for the email, and then it saves the email into a email variable of type string. Next we have is email address match. So it's actually a is match activity, and what it does is actually it checks using regular expression if it's an email. So it checks whether the format is an email format, and you'll put the result, which would be a boolean, into the checker, which is of type boolean as well. So based on this, using the flow decision, we have the condition which is the checker. So if the email matches, then the checker will be true. As such, you will go on to the next part. However, if it's false, you'll go back to the input dialog. Similarly, we have an input dialog for the student ID, where the result is actually saved in a variable called student ID of string type as well, and we're using the match function as well. So for this regular expression is custom. So as you can see, based on this, we have S the first, which will be the first input, the first alphabet that you can key in. After that, you will request for 8 different numbers from 0 to 9, and then a request for last alphabet from A to Z, as this is the student ID of our school. That's the format. So based on that, we will use the checker again, and then based on the output, whether it's true or false, it will check using the flow decision. So if it's true, it will go on, however false, it will repeat. Next, what we do is we open the application called expense cell, which will be used to create the expense report, and then we do a login. So how we do a login is using the type in tool. We use 2 type in tools to input the email and the student ID that is saved into the variable into the boxes that we have selected. After which we use a click activity to click the create expense report, which will open the expense report page. After which we have an input dialog. So the input dialog will request for how many expenses would the user like to input. So the reason why I did this was because I wanted to create a variable expense, which means that the user can put in as many number of expense that they would like. So example, if I would like to put in 5 different expenses, I can just key in 5 and put in the values, and then it will add the 5 expenses into the expense report for me. So next I had to do a is match again to check if it's a number. So this checks that it's a digit, and using the flow decision similarly to how we used previously, whether it's true or false, it will determine whether it should go on or not, or it should repeat. Next we have a build data table, which is used to create a data table that will store our values to be put inside the expense report. So we have expense type, description, and amount, and then the data table is saved as the value called inputs, which is a new variable of data data table type. Similarly, the input dialog previously is saved to a num of expense variable, which is a string. So after doing that, we actually go into the we do 3 input dialogs to request for the 3 types of variables that we need previously. So we need expense type, we need the expense description, and we need the expense amount, which are all of string type variable. Next, we add the data row. So using the add data row activity, we can add this row into the inputs table, and the format that we have used is this. So this is the array row which we use. So we have the expense type first, expense description second, and expense amount third, which is the same format as the expense report and the data table. Next, we assign the iteration. So iterations is a variable of integer that defaults as 1. And the reason why we do this is so that we can count the number of times that we have added expenses. This is used so that we can ensure that the number of expenses that we want to add has been added. So for example, let's say iteration is 1 and the number of expenses we wanted was 3. So for the first time it'll be 1, and then plus 1, 2, plus 3, and once it hits the 4th iteration, it will stop because 4 is more than the number of expression. So if that's the case, then it will be false, and then continue. However, if it's true, if it's less than the number of expenses, it will make it true, and then it will rerun again. So if it's false, then we go into for each row in data table. So this will check every row in the data table. We want to click the add expense button. We should add a new row into the expense report. Then we have this assign cell position. So these are two new variables. Cell is the position of the selector, which you will see later, and then we have cell value, which is an integer that will be used to increase the cell value so that we will move on to the next cell. So the default value is 16, as that would be the first cell that we want to key into. So based on that, we use a type into to key in the row 0 into the cell that we want. And how we use the cell above just now is in the edit selector. As you can see here, is written in the IDX. As such, this makes it so that IDX is variable, and that every time we run, it will not be writing back into the same cell. So after writing that, it will increase 1 again, so that it will go to the next position, and then assign it to the cell, and then we will run the type into for the next part, which will be the row 1, which is the expense description. And similarly, you will use this cell so that it can write in the correct position, and this repeats one more time so that we can write the amount in, and then add 1 so that for the next iteration it would go to the next cell and it won't rewrite the same cell. So after we have done that, it will go into the click activity. So this will click the view chart button, and then we have a take screenshot activity, which will save the screenshot into a variable of type image named screenshot. Then it will save this screenshot. So now if I were to run this for you, you can see. So as you can see, you ask for email. Let's say if I put in gibberish, it will not actually run, and it will tell me to put in the email again. So now if I were to put the correct email, then I'll move on to student ID. So if let's say I put gibberish, it doesn't work. So now I have to put in my student ID, and then it will run for me. As you can see, it has run for me, and now it will ask for number of expenses. So I put in something that's not a number, it will not work. So now I'll put in 2. So for the first expense type, let's say that is education, tuition, say it's $100. For the next one, let's say it's the IT type, laptop, of $200. So as you can see, you will key in the 2 new expenses into the system for me, and then you will click view chart, and then you will screenshot the chart. So once the chart is screenshot, I will go into the folder so that you can see that the screenshot is there. So as you can see, expense cell report chart, I can see is similar, it's the exact same one that was done here, that we screenshot just now. Okay, next we want to see the next one, which is the advanced UI. So I'll delete this. Okay, so the advanced UI is basically a web scraping application to retrieve values from Lazada, names from Lazada. So, and then save it into an Excel sheet. So what I did first is an input dialog, which allows the user to put the item that they want to search for in the search item variable, which is of type string. And after that, we have an open browser which opens Lazada, and this is the home page of Lazada, and this will allow us to put in whatever we want. So we have a type into to input the search item that was keyed in just now into the input field, and have a click button so that you can click the search. After which, the output, which will be the UI of the new browser, will be saved into a variable called browser of variable type browser. After which, we go into data scraping. So data scraping, we will actually request for the UI browser right here, so that you will be selecting the browser that we have searched out just now, and then we'll use this extract structured data div root, which is using the pattern that we clicked out to figure out which are the values that we want to collect. After which, we go into Excel application scope, which will create the file of item underscore details.xlsx, which I deleted just now, and then you write range. So this will create the file and write all the values into the from the extract data table into the sheet. So extract data table is actually what was output from the data scraping. So yeah, you can see here extract data table. So now I'll run the program. So let's say I want to search for wallets. So this will run the wallets, and then search, and then go to the wallets page, and you start doing the scraping. So as you can see, it's going to the next page so that you can get more of the values, and then it will open up the Excel sheet, save everything there. And so now if I were to go to here, you can see the items detail is back here again. If I open up, you can see all of the items. Now let's say we try a different item, so I will delete it now. Okay, and close this window. So now if I were to run this again, so let's say now you want to look for shoes. So it will do the same thing. You will key in shoes, search, and then it will do a scraping. So as you can see, it's scraping now. And once it has finished scraping, you create the Excel sheet, and then now if you go back, you can see the Excel sheet again, and there you go, we have scraped all of the shoes from the Lazada page. So thank you very much for watching my my UI path, and thank you very much.